At long last, as anticipated, the hammer finally fell on a Michigan school. And we've got one of the central characters involved in that, as everyone expected. Connor Stalions, the manifesto, part of all of this. Let's dig into it right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy
Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. And we have the man, the myth. I don't know if I can call you a legend anymore because the hammer fell on a Michigan school. And, I'd been spending all this time here on this show talking about how the hammer wasn't going to fall on, I was saying the University of Michigan. And it turned out it was Michigan State University that ended up seeing the hammer fall. Before I get to you, Connor, thank you to all of you who are our everydayers who check out the show every day. And thank you for making us your first listen. We're going to delve into the hammer stuff before we get into Michigan and what it needs to do. But Connor, you were there for one of the games on the sidelines staring down.
I was there for a few though, back in 2022, but yeah, in 23, I knew something was going on. Something shady was going on. Central Michigan started off pretty hot and Michigan State pulled away in the third quarter, and it just felt like something was off. But it's good to know that Central Michigan has been righted in this.
Yeah, it is good. And it is, it's because cheaters never prosper is one of the things. And you just don't like to see the sanctity of the game being tarnished the way that it just was in East Lansing, right? How do you feel when you hear that news? Do you hear that Michigan State?
Yeah, there was a Maction post yesterday that I think summarized it best. Like, Central Michigan should take Michigan State off of their schedule if they ever have them on in the future. They should not reward Michigan State with a bye game. It's just terrible for the sport, and Central Michigan should stand up to it.
Yeah, I know where I was when I heard the news yesterday. I was.
You'll never forget.
No, I was right here, and you and I were talking about it yesterday, and it was just, you're in a state of disbelief. We had, especially, I think the one place where I'm in a state of disbelief is we didn't hear anything about this case whatsoever, right? And that seems to be like the NCAA, it's turning a new leaf. It's doing things differently. Did that make it more shocking to you that we weren't hearing anything about this case after it was launched?
Yeah, you start to question, were they trying to sweep it under the rug? Or was the NCAA just following protocol this time and actually not going public before investigating? Makes you wonder.
It's really curious because I know of some other cases, I'm sure you've heard about or read about them at least, where the NCAA leaked just about every little snippet to the point where I don't remember what case this was. There was a story about how even the ball boys were complicit in everything. It was one of those things. No one knew how deep the rabbit hole went, but even the ball boys were getting in on the action.
I heard uncles were getting involved. Aunts and uncles were getting involved.
Yeah, when families and it was when the ball boys are some of the smartest people in any football program, number one. So it's it does track, but Do you think when you look at the way that this has gone for MSU, is this equal? Is this worse? Is this not as bad as certain mothers going and sitting in Ross-Ade Stadium at Purdue with an iPhone? You think which you think is, what is this criminal? What's happening in East Lansing? I don't know. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, they are questions worth asking. I think as, of course, the media will begin to leak more and more, I think then we can answer those questions here in the following weeks.
Yeah, it's my faith in the sport's been completely shaken. It
does make you question the outcome of games.
Yeah, especially when you think now MSU, a storied program, one that has had a long, celebrated history. They have to, over the course of 3 years.
I was confused because when the first notification I got said they are vacating 14 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured, well, which season are they vacating? And then I didn't realize it's 3 seasons. That's 14 wins is 3 seasons worth of wins. Which that was the biggest surprise to me, that such a blue blood program would only have 14 wins in 3 years.
I'm with you. The first thought that I had was trying to decipher which of their many seasons had 14 victories within it, right? Like you start trying to do the mental math, and then you're like, man, that could be any time.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that over 3 years? Because there's programs I know that have had 15 in 1 year. I don't remember. I can't recall which ones offhand, but I mean, it's 14 wins, but not in one season.
Yeah. I was as mind blown as you are.
You'd have to assume that with that many games that are impacted, that they won a lot of games in the time frame in which they were openly and brazenly cheating.
And it makes you think, were there more that just got swept under the rug or they didn't get to the bottom of?
I mean, really, it calls the whole program and its history into question. It really does. We're going to continue discussing the brazen acts of skirting the rules and bending them to your own whims. We're going to get into more of that. And for intrinsic value, just so you know, we're 8 minutes into this. There's more coming. There's all kinds of stuff here you can clip. But we're going to get into more of that here in just a moment. But before we do, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Detroit Pistons, they're making early pushes, and they're just dominating. It's amazing. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Connor. So it turns out you left Spartan Stadium in 2023 thinking, man, this Central Michigan team, which I clearly was here to help at the behest of Jim Harbaugh, clearly, right? Because it was obvious going into that year. It was going to need all the help he could get against that Michigan State team, right? You thought, hey, we lost that game. It didn't work out for us. So what's your reaction when you hear, didn't end up being a loss? In fact, in my eyes, it's a win.
Yeah, the first thing I did was sing the Central Michigan fight song when I saw, what had happened yesterday. And Yeah, all I could think about is how we missed that opportunity. It was taken from us back in 2023. And it really grinds your gears when you should have had that opportunity to do that in Spartan Stadium. But at least we get it now.
Yeah, and but at what cost, right? Like we talked already about the sanctity of the game being marred. And obviously Central's facing its own issues. I don't really know any details or particulars about that, but it's at what cost does this have on the game as a whole? Michigan State doing what it's doing, and having vacated wins, because that's not something that, like you were, ingrained with the University of Michigan. I went to the University of Michigan. I cover the school. I don't know how that feels to have vacated wins. I've never experienced anything like that. So what do you think the cost of the game is here to be in a situation where suddenly 14 wins over a 3-year period, gone, wiped out?
I'm at a loss of words.
Yeah. What do you think this does to Mel Tucker's legacy?
I think we have to find out what I think we need more information.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any, before we move on to Michigan, do you have any other thoughts on what we've just witnessed, on the gravity of this situation?
No, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, that makes all of us. We thought better of you, Michigan State. As a matter of fact, we were all rooting for you, and you let us down. You broke our hearts, and couldn't have happened to a better program. Couldn't have happened to a people who were very even keeled and very kind to you, Connor, throughout the process. They saw a man who was hurting, a man who was grieving, as you were going through your own stuff, and our hearts are with them now. So, moving on, let's talk a little Michigan football. Bye week probably couldn't have come at a better time for the Wolverines, about to head to Wrigley Field to face Northwestern. Without really looking too much at Northwestern, how are you feeling about the state of the team at the moment? I know fans are obviously very, they're on edge for a 7-2 team, a team with everything in front of them. They're on edge. How are you feeling going into this game?
I'm feeling fine. It's, I think we've talked about this before. It's not like Michigan needs to be clicking on all cylinders going into the Ohio State game. For anyone that's been alive in the last 4 years, that hasn't even been the case. Because I think there's an element to setting things up for that game. And Ohio State does have some problems of their own, particularly in the run game on both sides of the ball. So really, I'm just looking for corrections to be, you can see that they clearly made those corrections in this Northwestern game, particularly in the pass protection. I don't think anyone should, of course, unless it, affects a close game. Hopefully not this weekend, but I don't think anyone should complain about play calling. If anything, I'd prefer not to see everything just open up and as if you'd like to see against Ohio State, maybe elements of it. But really, to me, it's less about play calling, decision making, and more about, have they corrected any issues with pass protection rules and responsibilities, or just cleaning up any minor mistakes that are like execution mistakes, and then get into the decision-making more the week of Ohio State.
I want to touch on that idea of opening things up. I had a comment on after Jack's show yesterday on X about kind of the misconception of what opening up the playbook looks like. Like people feel like, I think like people always are asking, and they've been asking this pretty much all year, when are we going to open up the playbook? And I think they in their mind, they think that there's all of these fantastic plays that are just incredibly explosive that Michigan's just holding back. And so when you talk about opening up, the playbook, what does that actually mean?
I mean, I think we could talk about this forever. It's understanding, we've talked about it before. Each game is its own story, right? But within that, each game, like Ohio State, is game planning for Michigan. Mm-hmm. They watch Michigan's tape, both sides of the ball, and you want to set things up for the game where, for example, if you have a really good boot game and Ohio State watches the tape and hey, here's how we're gonna, here's our answer to boot. Well, you want to have an answer to their answers. You need to anticipate them, right? You got to flip the script, think of it from their perspective. What would you do if you were them? And then, figure out ways to exploit that as quickly as possible during the game. And when you open things up, as, people think of it as, I would assume that means, drop back pass all the time, kind of more like getting more in the air raid mentality than what Michigan does well. And, it just depends on how you think that game's going to go and what you want to set them up to prepare for Ohio State. And the more I haven't watched Ohio State a crazy amount, but the more I watch them, the more I watch Michigan, it's not too different than the last 4 years where they defensively are so good statistically right now because they are getting teams first of all, they're getting teams to trail pretty early in the game. Mm-hmm. And that means they're getting them into more passing situations. Those teams that, hey, if you're down 14-0 in the first or second quarter against Ohio State, really against anyone, you feel like you have to open it up more and start throwing the ball a lot more than you usually would. And Michigan's just not the team for two reasons I'll get into that I see being in that situation against Ohio State. So you don't need to see them open it up now, relatively speaking, when they don't need to, and they probably won't need to against Ohio State. Now, yes, are there potentially going to be times in that game where they have to throw it a little more than often? Probably. But I think we would agree that even in the worst case scenario, say Michigan's down 10-0 to Ohio State in the first quarter. Is Michigan the type of team that's going to just open things up when they're down 10-0? No, they're going to methodically get themselves back in the game. And that's running the ball, play action, boot, a little bit of drop back mixed in, some quick game mixed in, but it's not going to be, this whole, oh no, we got to change the whole game plan mid-game and open things up, in which I think is the fear in the back of Michigan fans' mind of, oh no, we're not going to be able to come back if we're down because we can't go air raid on teams. The offense isn't the type of offense that's what they're going to default to when their back's against the wall. And then secondly, Michigan's defense is not the type of defense that's going to put the offense in a situation where they are trailing by 2+ possessions early in a game. So I think that's one thing people need to realize is Ohio State's offense is obviously very good, very explosive, but the defenses they're doing this against are not Michigan. And for reasons that are the construction of the roster and the way that Michigan's front seven plays on top of the unique scheme defensively that Michigan has, clearly Ohio State, I mean, they have that monkey on their back, both mentally, but also schematically against Michigan. Michigan's defense has schematic answers to Ohio State. And I don't know if it's as much about other teams not being as sound as Michigan usually is in the run fit, married with the coverages that are designed to slow down a team with multiple receiver threats, and particularly the best receiver in the country. And then, it goes both ways, where Ohio State's defense is, if Ohio State has a weakness on either side, on both sides of the ball, it's in the run game. And if Michigan has a strength on both sides of the ball, it's in the run game. So, Ohio State struggles to run the ball. They also struggle at times to stop the run. And part of that is because they are so good defending the pass due to, one, the talent they have. They're really good at linebacker and safety. And also schematically, they are a very exotic team, to the point where they're in some very, again, I haven't watched every game, but I've gone through a couple. I find it very odd sometimes, the what they do up front with, they'll be in like a wide front, they'll stunt linebackers and spike linemen and on first and second down, which is very high risk, high reward. Kind of like what we talked about, that Purdue's defense at times. It's nothing similar, up front, but in terms of high risk, high reward, where they're trying to get a TFL, but hey, all it takes is one defender to not be in his gap on one play, and that could cost you the whole game. So against Michigan, you just have to be sound every single play, like gap sound, sound in the run fits. And, I'm not saying Ohio State isn't or can't be, but statistically, they have such a good defense right now because they're taking those risks and they're paying off. Michigan's not the type of team that I would recommend taking those risks.
All right, let's continue the discussion as it pertains to whether it's just what Michigan needs to do here, or with eyes on Ohio State. I think that's kind of the best way to put it. We'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Well, SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit SupplyHouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for $5 off your first order. That's SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, Connor, we've only got a few minutes left. Zuri's trying to pet herself here beneath the frame here. I just have my hands here, and she's just.
How is she taking the Michigan State news?
I mean, she's devastated. She thought, they have the, just like Michigan's got Victor the Frisbee dog, they've got their own Frisbee dog, and she's really concerned about how much did that dog know? Was that dog not being a good boy? That completely changes her view on it's giving her puppy problems. Mm-hmm. Right now she looks despondent. So yeah. It's as we look ahead to first Michigan Northwestern, then Michigan Maryland, then Ohio State. The first question I have to ask is, do you think Canada Mike knew about what was going on at Michigan State, and do you think he was hiding it from us?
I think there's a chance he played a role in it. We may never know.
I mean, there are some Canadians I've learned that I can trust, right? It's, whether it's, Jen Fletcher, now that she's technically Canadian as well, Canadian citizenship, Danielle Weiss, Canada Mike's wife, Peter McKinnon, Kiefer Sutherland. Those are a couple people that I can trust, but I don't know that I buy Canada Mike's. He claims he's not a Michigan State fan, claims he has nothing to do with it. All I know is I've never seen him and Mel Tucker or Brandon Jordan in the same room at the same time. And
it does make you think.
It does. Do you think that's why he doesn't want that Sudoku rematch?
That could have a significant role in the big picture of this. He claims he didn't go to the Michigan State game this year. Where was he during that game?
I heard he was at an American Tim Hortons, which really, again, calls into question, like, how Canadian is he really?
Was cash being handed to players with Tim Hortons bags instead of McDonald's bags?
That kind of sounds like that's what was happening. All I know is he's in Vegas right now. And to be in Vegas while all this drops, I mean, that makes you question, what did he know and when did he know it? And, how much more is he going to come back with, like a shiny new Rolex or something like that? Like, he
needs to be watched closely.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing for you as we wrap this up, you're going to be in Chicago just like I am. What do you want to see from Michigan that will give you confidence that they'll be able to execute in 2 weeks against Ohio State? Like, what will give you a little bit more confidence this week for
pass protection, clarity? That's really it. I mean, Michigan. I'm not saying Michigan's just going to run all over Ohio State, but they're not going to be a bad. They're not going to have a bad run game against Ohio State. I mean, that's going to be the MO, like it has. It's if Ohio State gets you in third down, or, I mean, obviously they're going to want to throw the ball in first and second down mixed in. You want to be assured over the next couple of weeks that, like, okay, they're synced up, right? The back, the quarterback, the O-line. Really, that's all I'm looking for is pass protection execution, making sure the O-line, the quarterback, and the running back are on the same page. And I think a reason why we're talking about Ohio State and kind of looking to that one. First of all, obviously we're not on staff. We don't need to. Team's not going to win or lose based on what we're focused on. But I think when you look at a season, people compare football to war, to military. And if you're in a war, like think of a traditional war, like the Civil War, from battle to battle to battle. I mean, if you know, so here's the benefit of football is your schedule. Mm-hmm. And unlike war, you don't know when you're going to battle. Well, if in theory you knew, like, hey, we got Gettysburg coming up in a couple weeks, you're not going to want to exhaust all of your resources to win a much smaller battle, a couple of weeks prior. You want to set yourself up for the best chance to win the one that is going to have the biggest impact on the end result of the war. So, to anyone that's probably thinking, we can't overlook Northwestern. Nobody's overlooking Northwestern, but it's about how can you set yourself up to win all three games rather than just taking it 1 week at a time, because all of these weeks do play into each other, from a tendency setting up and game planning standpoint. Right. So it's kind of that fine line between each game is its own story, but teams do watch film, and, you want to put yourself in the best situation from a health standpoint and from a game planning standpoint. So, I guess I would add on top of pass protection, clarity, health, ideally, right? And sometimes that's grouped with depth, right? Like I would personally rather not see someone who might be banged up play over the next couple of weeks, right? Like a Justice Haynes. Now, will he come back for Ohio State? I don't know. Like mentally, I would just prepare on him not being back for that game. But say there's a chance he is, I'd rather them wait for that game to play him than try to rush him back right now just to make people feel good, like, oh, we're healthy. So if there's anyone that's borderline healthy or not, rest them up. You're right. You don't want to risk further injury. And also, I would argue, more importantly, you want to develop depth behind each starter. Because also, who's to say someone doesn't get hurt during the game against Ohio State? And then you're scrambling, you put in some guy that hasn't had many reps throughout the year. So adding depth, and that's something Ohio State's done a pretty good job of this year too, is, something that they've been talking about is getting guys more reps and getting their starters more rest. So you want to do the same thing.
The one thing I know is that Michigan has no chance at beating Ohio State if they don't throw the ball all over the yard, and if they don't have their number one running back. I've never seen them capable of beating Ohio State under those auspices. That's why you bring in Jim Knowles, for a play, series just like this one. Yep. Anyway, all right, that's going to do it for us today. Apologies for all the people who don't want sarcasm, the people who complain about that.
If you are complaining about sarcasm and continue to watch, you have no one to blame but yourself. See, here's the thing about my show and about me is that it's a disorder that I have that makes it sound like I'm sarcastic all the time. Okay. It's an old Kids in the Hall reference. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be on the road on Friday. We will do an on the road show, en route to Chicago for the Northwestern game. That is the plan. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.